Happy Friday. How we doing, Johnny Mo?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Good, good. I figure we'll skip the countdown timer today, just get right after it. So,
Yeah, good.
it was a good week. So I want to let's recap the learnings from the 90 and 90. Let's dive in after that. We'll go through we were at a mastermind event yesterday down in Massachusetts, an awesome event. We'll recap some of the big stuff we took out of that, and then we'll wrap it up and call it a week.
Yeah.
So the 90 and 90. So we're at 30 listings here coming into the end of the eighth week. A lot of those came in. It was 10 or 11 the last week or so. So we're really seeing that hockey stick effect, like we talked about last week. Um, but for those of you following along, one of the key learnings this week was, um, it, as you're generating these leads and you're bringing in clients and you're starting to get busy servicing the business. Don't let the lead generation activities stop, because what we do is we get on this roller coaster. We generate leads, we get a bunch of business, and then we get busy with the business and the leads fall off. And
Yeah.
then when those clients are all done and they closed, you look around, you've got nothing. So
Mhm.
now it's really time to be intentional with that schedule. Time block the lead generation activities. Don't let servicing the business take you away from continuing to build that pipeline and momentum. Otherwise, you're going to be on that roller coaster, and the steep decline after all these people close hurts. It hurts a lot.
It hurts. And then you get into that flat territory where you start lead generating again.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it's cyclical, right? Then you start getting busy again. And then you get so busy, it's, oh my God, I got three things on the contract. I swear to God, I swear to God, right? I swear to God that agents make more trouble for themselves than it really is,
Yep.
right? It's not because they're operating in reactionary mode, but you got to operate in proactive mode, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to get stuff that pops up during the home inspection. Don't absorb and then have the same emotions as your client, your business. And the moment that you can make it about business, I know we got to have that personable and stuff like that. That's business too, right? That's training. But the moment that you can remove that emotion, listen, Mary, I know that there's, you got high rate on. It's actually rather normal living in our area. And this is how we remedy it. If you're not comfortable, that's okay. But understand there's a high possibility that every property we look at with will have that. With a basement, we'll have that because it's naturally occurring
Hmm.
in decaying granite. I used to tell people in New Hampshire, and we live in the granite state.
Oh yeah,
Right? And Maine has a lot of ledge too, and that's
sure
where it's
do.
decaying radium, right? It's in
Yep.
granite. So it's naturally occurring. Don't get, oh my God, I can't believe you have rain. Oh, our job is to control. Our job as professionals is to control the situation. So, but that does happen in our world. That roller coaster road. Every coach will talk about it. What do you think the cause of that is?
Yeah. It's always the starting and stopping. We get focused when you've got nothing. You go hard to find something. Then you get something. You focus on what you've got. Forget about getting more. It's the simple adage of you don't go grocery shopping when you're ready to cook dinner. You do it before you're ready to cook dinner, so that way you've got food to eat.
Mm-hmm.
It's just continuing to have that pipeline where you're queuing up the stuff you need to have something as you go forward.
Yeah.
And what we get guilty of is that we do that for a little while. We get busy with some clients. We stop doing that. We focus on them, and then you look around when those clients all close, or in some cases maybe they don't. Things change, and you've got nothing. So you're always starting and stopping and restarting and stopping and restarting and stopping, and you get stuck on this roller coaster ride. It's got all these ups and downs. When if you just stayed consistent with some portion of your day always being focused on those activities, you would be able to level that out, and you would not ride that roller coaster.
Yeah. What What do you think causes that?
I think it's caused by a variety of things. I think the first thing is it's the discipline to actually do the time blocking
That's
and
what I
then
was going
hold.
for.
Yeah, and hold to that time block. Um, so I think it's partially discipline,
Hmm.
but I think it's also attention and focus. I think when you have somebody who's active and you're thinking about, got to get them closed, got to get them closed, got to get through this hurdle, got to get through this milestone. We prioritize that over everything else, because we're thinking about getting that client through the process. We're thinking about getting to the closing table. I think that's part of it. And I think the other part of it is leverage. I think that many times agents are trying to be everything to everybody all the time, and they don't have any sort of help in their life, whether it's systems or technology or people. They can handle some of these things that maybe they shouldn't be doing, so they can stay focused on the stuff they should be doing. I think it's a combination of all those. In some cases, and for some people, it's every single one of them.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And, I will even say that, of course, it's discipline, but it's understanding,
Mm.
it's planning. UPAD principles. I talk about them all the
Yep.
time, right? Understanding and planning is your management level activities.
Yep.
When you understand that you need to lead generate for an hour to 2 hours every day without question every day, at least an hour every day. Okay. Whether that when we talk about lead generation, and it was good to hear Jeff talking about some things yesterday, and we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yep.
But I want to dispel any myths right now. Lead generation isn't just cold calling, right? It's seeing whose birthday it is,
Mhm.
wishing them a happy birthday. Hopefully, like Jeff said, he sends out the card the week before, right?
Yep.
So even that is lead generating. It all depends on what your model is. So if your model is you want referrals, these are the things that you have to do every day,
Mhm.
right? It's not even the problem is this. We have been inculcated since we were little to through the school system, through watching our parents go to work and everything else like that, right? My mom was more of an entrepreneur. My dad was the blue collar worker out the door every day at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? Didn't see
Yep.
him till 6 o'clock at night every day, and Saturdays too, right?
Hmm.
But when he showed up to work, he punched the clock, he did with the jobs that were laid out for him, that somebody else up here told him that are required, that are needed. This is your job description. And when he fulfilled that, he was able to punch out and go home. At the end of the week, he got a paycheck. My point is, the management aspect of his job was removed and deferred to somebody else, where we don't have that. We don't have that luxury, if you want to call it. We have to show up and be that manager. We have to set those tasks. We have to have the dirty A word, which I'll get to in a minute. People don't like the dirty A word. Real estate agents don't like the dirty D and A word, right?
Yeah.
And so the dirty DNA word, you have the management level who's responsible for understanding and planning what is required for that entity to operate, to hit the goals and everything. And if that's 20 conversations a day, if that's whatever your numbers come out to be, it's the technician that takes that plan and puts into action, but has the discipline to make sure that you don't have any negative gaps, that you're on par, that if you need to make 20 conversations a day, you made 20. If not today, then when? Right? If not today, then when this week? It's not even a later. It's okay, I am going to do it on this day, because that discipline creates accountability. So the dirty D word is discipline, the dirty A word is accountability. And a lot of people in our industry, they lack that accountability because that manager is themselves and they've never learned to be a manager of their own business.
100%. You have to get out of that employee mindset and actually take on that ownership, that entrepreneurial mindset. Because to use a really simple example, you go to McDonald's and you've got the people that are working in the store that are they're doing all the work. 100%, they're doing all the work, but the work they're doing and the systems they're using and the people that come in the door, it's not that part's not done by them. The system was designed by somebody else. The technology was designed by somebody else. The restaurant was built by somebody else. The customers are driven there by marketing done by somebody else. And when you step away from being an employee into that ownership seat, you can't forget about the fact that the work you used to do for somebody else that was handed to you, you've now got to be the one that goes and creates all that for yourself and the people around you. So it's not just performing the work; it's actually creating the need and creating the work itself, so you have something to do.
Yeah, 100%. And it comes down to our world is exciting,
Mhm.
right? It's exciting to go on a point. It really is exciting. It's a pain in the ass to set them up, but it's
Sure,
exciting to go show the home.
absolutely.
Showing the home is the fruit that has bore on the tree, from you planting the tree, from watering the tree, from pruning the tree, from keeping the bugs away. So if you like the taste of that fruit, you need to plant more trees. You need to nurture more trees. You need to be more proactive, not on the appointment, and you'll have more appointments,
Yep.
right? Some of this stuff can be leveraged out, of course. Most of these things require some form of system, right? Lead generation also isn't, I mean, you got to do that cold, and you've talked about having a cold source, a warm
Yep.
source, an incoming source, and those types of things. Lead generation isn't just always, and it cannot be thought of a quid pro quo. I'm
Right.
gonna make 20 phone calls, I'm gonna get an appointment, right? I'm gonna send out 30 letters, I'm gonna get an appointment.
Mhm.
Averages are created because you sent out 90 letters and got one appointment
Yep.
twice, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, so and then on the next 90, you got two appointments. Okay, so my average isn't 1 in 90, it's 1 in 60,
Yep.
right? So when you start to understand that, it doesn't matter. The Super Bowl, the championships, that's not that the game is played, but the championship is won off the field, in the
Mhm.
preseason, in the mindset, and everything else that led up to that point.
Yep.
When you go out on that listing appointment, that's your Super Bowl, right? So
Yep.
if you want to go to more Super Bowls, you got to do more of that proactive activity behind the scenes.
Right. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking to a team leader who runs a massive team on the West Coast. They're doing 500 sides and $250 million a year, and they asked about his conversion rate. He said, "Well, my conversion rate's like 7%." And the reaction was, "Wow, that's really high." He goes, "No, no, keep in mind." He goes, "That's my conversion rate this year on all the leads that I have." So, like in year one, they might convert at 1%, and then when they get to the second year in my system, they get to two, then three, then five, then seven. Um, he goes, but that's layers of years that people are now have been around. They've been nurtured. They've been brought to the point they're ready to do something, and they do something, and that's and that's a big part of that relationship component that we heard loud and clear yesterday. You
Loud.
mentioned it with the cards, and that's actually the perfect segue to learning number two. Is we consistently think about lead generation, um, but not all conversations are going to lead to a lead. Sometimes it's leading to a relationship.
Yeah.
So we need to stop thinking about being in the lead generation business, think more about being in the relationship generation business,
Mhm.
talking to those people that don't need to do anything right now. Great. You know, get their information, get permission to stay in touch, continue to add value, show them what's going on, be a resource to them, answer their questions, provide them with referrals when they need them. Just continue to build that relationship because that way, when they're ready, not only will they use you, but they're also going to refer friends, family, and coworkers to you. But we need to stop thinking about, well, if you don't need to do something right now, then that name goes in the trash and I'm moving on. No, the agents that have done that the last couple of years that haven't built relationships, that have just run through transactions and, you know, walked away from the closing table and never talked to them again, those agents are going to be gone. And
Mhm.
those clients are going to end up working with somebody else next time because they're not going to remember who you were. And this business is so predicated on relationships. And that was said a million times yesterday at the event. Everybody right now is focused on getting back into relationship with the people they've worked with or been talking to all along, because when the market was at 3% interest rates and 10% inflation, people were just coming out of the woodwork. Everybody wanted to buy, everybody wanted to sell. Um, and in many cases, people were just running through transactions as fast as they could, get to the closing table, see ya, and never talk to them again. Those agents will be out of the business, and those clients will end up finding somebody else. Because keep in mind, these people are probably in 5 other databases at least. But those 5 other agents, at least one of them's talking to them consistently. So they're going to go use that person next time because you didn't take the time to spend anything on the relationship. It was transactional and you were done.
Yeah. That's 100% right on the money. And that's the message that we heard yesterday. And the thing is, some of my best referral sources have never bought a house or sold a house with me.
Sure. 100%.
Right. So that's why the relationship's important. And there is a methodology out there. You want to buy a house? No. You want to buy a house? No. You want to buy a house? No. Right. That
Mhm.
get rid of them as quick as possible. And I agree with that in some respect, but more in a relationship respect. Do I want to be in a relationship with this person? Is there value in
Right.
this relationship? Right. I'm going to sound pretty greedy and self serving in a minute. What does this person bring to the table?
Yep.
And I mean that though, and I do believe that in order to achieve great things and the goals that we do have to be a little self-serving. It is only when our cup is full that we can give our cup out to the overflow to
Sure.
others. And so I want to make sure that the people that I'm in alignment with, we're all in alignment with the greater message, the greater goal, right? Because if you have somebody in there that's only a taker or a negative or something else like that, they can sink the ship. So I want to make sure
Right.
that the relationships that I'm getting into, I'd rather not have a relationship without there's no book, there's no algorithm, there's no methodology that says I need to have X amount of relationships. I want relationships with good people. That's
Yep.
it. I want relationships with good people. And so the relationship, you don't know who these people are that are buying homes from you,
Yep.
right? Case in point is I had somebody, I guess it was 2004, right? They reached out to me on one of my high performing websites because, Zillow and Facebook, they really weren't things at this
They
point,
weren't.
right? And so I was number one in New Hampshire. Come to find out, this dude was an orthopedic surgeon. And in that year, his starting pay in 2004 was 350,000 plus bonus, plus so much
Yep.
going every year. I mean, don't get me wrong; it took him 12 years to get that starting
Well,
pay,
yeah, and he invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to get there.
right? And then so he introduced me to the gal that was handling his interview and relocation at the hospital. Now, it took a year. I showed him, and then we closed then finally get the decision a year later. If you understand how the hospital process works
Yeah.
and for doctors and stuff, it all formulates around June, and they're interviewing you a
Mhm.
year before,
Yep.
right? So but they want you to do a community tour, show them around because that's part of the that's part of the allure of coming to work for X, Y, and Z
Yep.
is we got a great area. So I had a tour all lined up for him, and a gal reached out to me, said, hey, I'm so and so from Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, and you're going to be showing so and so around. Um, I just wanted to go over our process with you. So I said, okay. She goes, well, we interview, my department interviews probably about 12 docs a year, surgeons, docs, and stuff like that. Would you be interested in showing them around? Because Rico's been speaking, oops, I said his name, speaks very highly of you. I said, yeah, absolutely. Right. So that's what got me into the door with the hospital. And that's what helped me. I think it was 2003. That's what helped me open the door to all these other, 2004, open the door to all these other doctors and surgeons that I worked
Yep.
with, right? Because they fell in my lap, but it's because I gave good service. Amy, I never worked with Amy. I never sold a house, but she always, as a result of that first relationship, it did open the door to the second one. And then through professionalism, I was able to nurture that one into another couple dozen sales,
Sure.
right? So it's about relationships. That relationship right there, so powerful, right? Anybody can find that relationship in their local market.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why we have, we tell all of our past clients, and we have this preferred vendors list of all these people we've used that we like. We tell our clients to call us for anything. And we've even given people restaurant recommendations when they traveled, when they had family traveling here, and we've helped people find childcare. But ultimately, if you need painter, plumber, contractor, we're happy to take that call and help connect you to somebody who's actually going to show up, somebody that we've vetted that we know will do a good job for you.
Mhm.
Because again, it goes back to, we're here to help. We're here to be a resource. It's not one of those things like, well, we connect you with the contractor. Do you have anything for us? Like, that's not how the conversation goes. It's, what do you need? Okay, you need a contractor. Great. Well, here's my three best. Why don't I give them a call, see who's available, and connect somebody with you?
Yeah.
Um, and it's just trying to be a resource because ultimately, we care about seeing those people get what they need. And then, selfishly, when you help enough people get what they need, you'll get what you need. And that's our third learning of this week is when you are focused on others, ultimately the law of reciprocity kicks in, you will get what you need. So
Mhm.
when we're focused on helping others with their problems, helping our clients solve their problems, helping our vendors, build their businesses, and in this case, maybe get through this shift. When we're focused on our community, small businesses, and helping them out, and being a good steward of our community, and trying to build that up, um, people will naturally see that and either want to a be a part of it, or b they're a benefactor of it, and they're going to want to help return the favor and try to help you. So ultimately, if we help other people, we will in the end get what we want out of it. But we have to lead with that other person. And we have to be okay with not making that request or having that expectation. You've got to give with that expectation, help others, and in the end, it all comes back around.
It sure does. We had the privilege of listening to somebody yesterday that I never knew existed,
Yeah.
and I never knew that these accomplishments were possible. Now, just he's got a saying: the only way you can truly fail in life is to not try at all. This guy, Dave McGillivray, was the marathon director for Boston, the Boston Marathon, the race director. He failed to be a sports. He wanted to be an athlete. He grew up in Boston, right?
Yep.
Medfield. And he wanted to be Larry Bird, he wanted to be Jimmy Rice, he wanted to be all these iconic people that we had growing up in the 70s and 80s in the Boston sports scene. It didn't matter what sport they were cranking, right? And but he was 5'4".
Hmm.
And so even Wes Welker was 5'6", right?
Right.
But anyways, he was 5'4", and back then he didn't make any of these teams, so he decided he's going to run, and he failed out of his first Boston Marathon. He wasn't even old enough to run; he was 17. But his grandpa got him in there and dropped him off and everything, and he ran it and he failed and whatever, and he made a promise to his grandfather he was going to finish the next year. And well, the next year, his grandfather had died in the meantime. Next year, he quit. He turned around, and it was, he was at. He didn't. He said he didn't realize it. He turned behind, and he was at the graveyard where his grandfather was buried, and
Yep.
his grave was looking right at him. I don't know how true that part is, but I'm sure the graveyard was.
Yeah.
And so he got up and finished the race. Anyways, he went on to not that in his life over the next 3 decades, went on to become the race director for Boston Marathon for 35 years. He did 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 continents,
Yep.
right? Multiple times. He did the Hawaiian Triathlon. He did the
He ran from Medford, Oregon to Medford, Mass. He ran 3,500 miles in 80 days.
right. So absolute, but along the way, he raised money for Jimmy Fund and organizations. He gave kids hope, and he really impacted hundreds of thousands of people.
Yep.
Hundreds of thousands of people. Not because anything other than he didn't quit. Right? He didn't quit. He inspired others. That kind of person is possible in all of us.
Yep.
Right? It's possible. Different ways, of course.
Right.
Different ways, of course, right? Which is a segue to what I want to talk about is Brian put on this huge event. Everybody talks so highly of Brian. That didn't just happen yesterday.
Right.
It took at least a decade to get to that point.
Taken a lot of years.
Right? It's taken a lot of years of building relationships, but when you can fill a room up of mortgage, no, I don't think there were many mortgage people, real estate, title, maybe there was, financial advisors, all the people that we're supposed to network with, our core group of B&I-ish type people.
Yep.
I don't know how many people were there. I was at table 19. There was 8 people at each table. I would say 100 and some odd.
Yeah, there are 160 or so signups, and so you probably had at least 140, 150 people that showed up and were in the room with us.
Right. So in order to put that together, that's all relationships. That's all about it's about giving good service, right? But it's also about being trustworthy and intentional in your relationships.
Right.
And he even told me, he says, we're talking, and I don't know how we segued to this question. He says, my God, just putting this thing together, my business is blown up over the past month or two just because I'm having these conversations with people.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter whether you're selling 6 homes. He was a mortgage person. So it doesn't matter if you're closing 6 loans a year or 600 loans a year. It doesn't matter whether you're selling 6 homes a year or selling 600 homes a year. The process is the same.
It is.
And it's boring consistency at its best.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, so when you can bring that number of people together, provide that level of value, get sponsors that actually want to contribute and be a part of it. It says a lot about the network that you've built, and we talk a lot about that network of high value. And these mastermind and networking events are exactly that, because you can see the people that have invested to get to know the people in their industry. They're the ones that are moving around the room, talking to everybody, having a good time, having some laughs and telling some stories. Like, those are the people that have built the relationships. The other people kind of standing around the outside watching, or maybe the ones that are leaving early, you can tell those are the people that have not. They don't have the relationships. They're not comfortable necessarily being in that room or being around that group, because they feel like they're out of place. Now, maybe they're brand new, in which case you take some time to integrate. But really, you have to be willing to put yourself out there, meet those people, have those conversations, be able to, show that you actually care about that person so that they want to talk to you. But from there, over time, that network continues to develop. So now, like, the first time I went down there to something Brian had, I knew nobody. I literally walked into the room and I knew nobody but Brian, and I barely knew Brian. And now I look at it like I went down to that event yesterday, and like I've now got people approaching me because I've been down there a few times. They've seen me. There's some familiarity. We've had some conversations. And now it's nice because like that network's now beginning to build out for me. But I started from zero. Like I was the new guy, a year and a half ago with that whole crew. down in Massachusetts, and now I've kind of integrated into that group a little bit, met some great people. But you have to be willing to invest that time and put yourself out there and in front of them, to build those relationships. But it is amazingly powerful once you do, because you put the business part of it aside, just what we learn from each other by having those conversations and seeing what other people are doing and how they're succeeding and what they're struggling with, like being able to swap those stories, and share, what's worked for us and hasn't, back and forth, and give that level of information to these people. It's extremely powerful. And that's why I love these mastermind and networking events, because when done right, everybody walks out of there with so much they can take and implement into their business and grow because of it.
Yeah, you sure can. And I know networking, when we're talking about this, makes some people throw up in their mouth a little bit, right? Me being one of them.
Yeah, I saw you do it. Yeah.
Me being one of them. I'm not that. You mean you want to put me in front of a crowd of 10,000 people? I can speak, no problem. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you want to put me into a group of people that I don't know and talk. Man, I can't even tell you what's going on with current events, except for there's a spaceship in our universe. Besides that, I don't even know what's going on. And for me, my mind's elsewhere, right? And I don't mean this against any person. This is a John issue. My mind is thinking about different things, right? And search engine optimization and what AI this is doing and what that's doing. I can't wait to sit down and start hacking away at that stuff again. But that's okay, because I still had conversations with people I didn't know. You can do it through yourself. I have my video with me. I have my gear, my setup with me, right? Be comfortable in your environment when you're going to a foreign environment. Right.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I made video of people be like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, this is what I even went with I don't know if I have it up here. Have my name tag, right? My Explore My Town name tag, right? It's an executive producer on it. Why? Because that's my persona, right? So allow your persona to be who your persona is, that person to be. You love talking to people. I'm like, shake my head. Yep. I'm an excellent listener. I'm an excellent listener. But when we start getting on a topic that we're talking about or somebody that's interesting, I get into that conversation. But to walk in to an audience I don't know, that's hard for me. So don't think that, we're two opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to that. But it's possible, even if you're an introvert, because our introvert friend Ashley was there and she was taught, she had she was a little more comfortable because we were in her backyard. So there were a lot of people around that she knew. Right. But it's still uncomfortable. So I hung out with her and, I was like, oh, I know this person. So I latch on a little bit. And she introduced me to the team leader down there and these other agents and spoke highly about what I'm doing or what Explore My Town is doing and what we're doing with you guys. And she's excited to watch what we're doing all together. Right. So it's not about going in to meet everybody.
Right.
It's about going in to build relationships and meet a few people.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Jeff and I sat on a lead generation panel, with Christine and Melvin, who have very different businesses than what we do. And we all shared some great tips and tricks. And so I focused hard on, the networking, digital networking. That's what I like to do. I'm not necessarily an extroverted person. I still have my introverted tendencies. Like, I was exhausted when I got home last night from that event. Like, it wore me out, but I've got a much higher tolerance than somebody who's a much larger introvert. So I'm not like the life of the party kind of guy, but I'm certainly working the room and meeting people. So I like to network. I like digital network. I like to talk to the people that are behind the counter at the coffee shop. I like to talk to the business owners in the area. I like to network with business owners. Like, that's my wheelhouse. That's my background. Jeff, on the other hand, he likes lead generation in the more traditional sense of sending out letters and making calls, because, you're not necessarily doing the face-to-face interaction right away. You're not getting to that face-to-face interaction until you have a reason to. Sure. And as I pointed out to the group, I can't do what Jeff does. Like, that doesn't work for me. And Jeff wouldn't want to do what I do. Like, we run in different lanes because that's where we're best and that's where we're comfortable. And even during the event, there's people Jeff knew that he kind of gravitated towards. And in many cases, like, I'd meet somebody, I'd pull Jeff in and have him join the conversation because it was easier for me to go start it in some cases. So even within the room, you could see the different personalities working. And it was really nice to be able to share some stuff with that group, share different approaches, because again, in this business, it's not all one size fits all. Everybody's going to have different strengths and weaknesses. You got to play to those. You got to find what works for you. And I can tell you right now, I can't do what Jeff does because it would drive me crazy. and he wouldn't want to do what I do because it would drive him crazy. You wouldn't want to do what I do because it would drive you crazy, and vice versa. Like, we need to figure out what our lanes are and get into them.
Mhm.
Um, at the same time, do you need to be able to put yourself out there a little bit? Well, yeah, if you're going to succeed, you've got to be able to get in front of people. But there's lots of different ways to do that. You've got to find the one that works for you.
Yeah. And listen, man, I don't want this to sound like a sales pitch, even though it's going to sound like a sales pitch because it's kind of a passive aggressive sales pitch. But you've been warned. Anyways, that right there, what you just said, and everything that we're just talking about, I believe everybody's possible of doing a big event like you guys did up in
Yep.
Portland, like Brian did yesterday. I think everybody is capable of doing it.
Absolutely.
I don't think everybody believes that they're capable of doing it, and they'll allow
Yeah.
that belief to. And this, I think, was my Facebook post today. You're gonna let that belief, that negative self talk, turn into fear. Tell you that you're not good enough, that nobody's going to come, and all this other crazy stuff.
Yep.
This is the exact reason I created the Explore My Town methodology. It's the exact reason was I know how powerful networking is. I don't enjoy it.
Mhm.
What I do enjoy is the relationships and getting to know people and the smaller groups and the one-on-one. So when I'm going into a place with a video, when I'm going into a place and I'm going to use that video on a blog so I can have that on digital marketing, right? Google optimized, right? That's why it's video, digital, and social. When I can take that video and put it out on the multitude of social media platforms, except for maybe TikTok in the future because it's trying to take that away from us, right? So when I can take that video, I'm in complete control of the environment.
Mhm.
I can edit out any mess ups. I can do the take 500 times if I want. I'm in control, but I'm using that video. I'm using for my persona. That's who I am. That's my personality. So I'm using that video to engage in a conversation, and then we can start in that conversation. Then I have a reason to follow up with them, right? So part of it is probably by my own self beliefs or something like that. Oh, so Joey doesn't want to hear from me, right?
Right.
And even Jeff said something. He said he called on his, canned thing to wish a happy birthday, and he was about to lead into a script, and his buddy is like, "Shut up, Matea. Don't try to sell me anything. What do you want to talk about?" Right? So that's kind of probably some level of fear for many people is like you don't have that exchange of value,
Yep.
but you're looking for something. But when I can come at it with a video, now I can be seen on social media. I can be seen with
Yep.
these businesses. I can start to have conversations. I now have a reason, intent, and purpose to go talk to somebody. That's what works
Yep.
for me. And I know that there's a lot of people out there besides looking awesome on digital media and, instead of being so real estate focused, we're
Yep.
community focused and we can, like you're doing, bring people together. You get seen with those people that elevates you.
Mhm.
So it's all possible, but you need tools and a system to do it. Right. And
Yep.
a little bit of leverage. I asked Brian yesterday, I said, wow, man, you put this whole thing together. And then he announced, this is before the beginning. And then he announced that this whole thing was made possible because of Wendy.
Yep.
And so she was the one that coordinated it all. It takes a team,
It does.
right? It takes a team to put on a big event. But you, through the power of video, social, and digital, can look like a big deal to everybody else because that's the world that we live in. We live in this digital world where you can be, do, have anything that you want. So even if you're uncomfortable going to a networking event, you can go to a networking event and make videos and engage in conversation with people and be like, hey, what's your name? Mary. Mary, I'm here with Mary. Mary, where do you work? Mary's an agent. What do you think about the importance of relationships? And then Mary
Mhm.
would be like, oh, all right. I should have done more of that. But
Yep.
anyways, there's always a way to be bigger than you are. You just have to think differently than you currently are.
Yeah, and I think video is a super powerful icebreaker. So, yeah, I look at when I started going to these events, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and I was the new guy, and I didn't know these people. So 2 years ago, I would have spent most of my time kind of walking around the room trying to see if I could find somebody that I knew that I could slip into a conversation with to
Yeah.
try to maybe ease me into some other groups, or I would have just kept walking around the room and finding excuses to step out in the hallway and check my phone or take a phone call I wasn't going to get, like we're all guilty of because we're just uncomfortable to just step right up and be like, "Hi, I'm so and so." Um, but the other thing I thought was cool is that from doing things like the 90 and 90 from doing these lives, from doing all the other stuff that we've been doing. Like I had people walking up going, "Hey, Harrison, it's great to meet you. I'm so and so." And I'm like, "Oh, how do you know? How do have we met?" And they're like, "Oh no, I've been watching your stuff here, or I saw the 1990, or I watch your Friday lives." Or I'm like, "Oh, cool!" Like video was the icebreaker that got them to approach me, because through you talk about that parasocial relationship or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
through all this stuff, like people are getting to know who I am. So when I walk into the room, a lot of them are like, "Oh, I've already seen you before. I've already heard you before. I just want to introduce myself and say hi." But I found that more people in this case knew who I was than I knew who they were,
Mhm.
which I thought was great because it shows it's an easier icebreaker for me because because I don't have to break the ice. But it also just shows the power of video getting in front of people, and that's true with networking. It's true in your community. As you're doing videos with business owners, now you've built credibility with them, their staff, the people they know, and people begin to just recognize you from around town. We laugh all the time with Jeff. His people hear his radio ads and they hear our jingle and they see that everywhere. They may not know who Jeff is, but they know who Jeff is,
Yeah, I
because
tell you, I get testimony to that.
yeah, because all of that stuff is out there, and there is amazing power in video as a delivery mechanism, video as a digital networking platform, video as a way to build your recognition in the community, and that's why I use it so much with what I do. That's why I do stuff like this, because it's not only do I think I can help people and deliver some value through these videos, but I think it's a great way for people to get to know me. So in the future, when I do meet them, it's a really easy introduction.
Yeah. I think, Harrison, that we are, and I know we've been hearing this, it seems like forever, but that's not real because none of us have ever experienced forever,
Right.
right? So we've been hearing that, and we've been witnessing what I'm about to say. Real estate, how real estate's done, how lead generation is done. Don't get me wrong, we still have our tried and true methods, right?
Yep.
Networking to me is powerful.
Yep.
Networking with the video, networking with the digital, networking with the social, that's powerful too. Put them all together. That's what we do, right?
Mhm.
But the world is changing and technology is changing the world, right? You can write code with AI right now.
Mhm.
And people are like, oh, that's never going to put programmers out of the job. Never is a long time.
Yeah, never is
Right?
a very long
Never is a
time.
long time. And so if I can go in there right now and say, you need to know the commands to tell, it's a language, it's a programming language. So understanding logic, you go in there and you can tell these AIs exactly what you want for an output. And sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. That's why you got a human intervention. But I can
Yep.
go in there and tell it to program me in HTML a page, and here's the information that I want in the page, and these are the headings, and blah blah blah, and I want 12 heading twos, and I want, whatever it might be,
Yep.
and I can have it write that. You need to know what you want it to write. Problem is, a lot of
Correct.
people copy and paste that and put it away, and they don't go and test it into the other systems to make sure that it's optimized, and that's the key. But AI and technology and tools will have an impact in our business. I don't
Mhm.
ever think the real estate agent will go away. I think there will always be that
Yep.
human intervention of some sort, especially for higher end things, especially for first time buy, right? All these other things.
Yep.
There will come a time where a homeowner can put their home on like a marketplace, and all of a sudden the showings happen. And they can play the part of the real estate agent if they want. The mortgage can happen. Everything can happen there.
Yep.
I'm saying it's going to happen because it's being built by a company that's worth tens of billions of
Right.
dollars. And they have 11 stock exchanges. Okay, so
Yeah,
these kind of companies are going after that because it's very lucrative.
it is.
But that will decimate a lot of the dabblers.
Mhm.
For the agents that are running teams, and even Gary Keller said mega teams are the future, teamerages are the future,
Yep.
right? Because it's going to get so expensive as an individual agent
Yep.
to buy Zillow, to buy, compete against all these other companies with pay per click and stuff like
Well,
that.
and
You need to find another way to stand out.
yeah, and one thing I'd add to that too, Johnny Mo, is that what I've learned from a lot of conversations with these big teams around the country, there are a lot of teams that are just built on buying Zillow leads.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous if you're building a team off that as a foundation, that's a dangerous model. And if you're on a team, you should think about where those leads come from, because if they're just buying Zillow leads, that lead source at any point in time could dry up.
Mhm.
And really, there's nothing unique about what you're getting. You could go do that on your own. There's no value in what the team provides other than the fact that they're just paying for it before you get it.
And the thing about, from what I'm hearing, rumor on the street is that they're starting to look at conversion rate, and they're
Oh yeah.
expecting a conversion rate of, I don't know what the percent is, and I don't want to misquote one. Let's just say 10 apples, right? They're looking for a conversion rate of 10 apples, 10%, 15%, whatever it is. And if you don't meet that, they're going on to a different lead. So
Yep.
you dry up, they're on to the next.
Yep.
So you don't even get even if you get it, and this is the REO world, even
Right.
if you get it, you might not have it in a month.
Yep.
Right. So you always have to perform. But if you can plant your own garden and reap and grow your own fruits and vegetables, you stand a chance of surviving long term.
Yep.
I could never, as an individual agent, come into the Scarborough, Portland market and compete against the Matea Group, their ad spend, their systems, their tools, and how you do everything.
Mhm.
I couldn't do that. Right.
Right.
So for an individual to break in, it's going to be hard, and it's going to become harder in the future. You got to find a way to stand out, to be a little bit different.
Right.
And video allows that because all the platforms want it.
Yep.
Digital allows that because everybody's all about search engine optimization, Google, Bing, and all these other things. Video, digital, and social. Focus on that footprint. That doesn't go away. It's there for a while. Yeah, you put out a reel and it's cool and you got a bunch of likes, or you put this out, but what's the intent? What's the longevity? Yes, those things sit around forever, but they're cycled fast, right? So
Right.
while they may be around, they're going to be around after 10 trillion others. Right?
Exactly.
So how do you stand out? How do you make sure that the actions that you're doing today are valuable and they're going to stick around in the digital footprint and landscape of today?
Yeah, and I found that that's really kind of the last kind of takeaway I wanted to get to here was there was an amazing amount of conversation at this event about relationships, the power of relationships, um, and people weren't talking about AI and Google this and ads that. They were talking about relationships, and getting into relationship, but not just relationships to like with clients, but also with other agents in the marketplace and attorneys and lenders and home inspectors and contractors and vendors. Like having that network, that high value network of people that when you need something can take care of it. You help them, they help you. Everything's mutually beneficial. Everybody wins. Because right now it's not about technology or Zillow or whatever the new gadget is in AI. It's literally about, the only way that everybody continues to grow in this business is to continue to develop those relationships, build out that network, be that resource for a lot of different people. And that was a massive component of this yesterday was just being that person, being that connector, being that resource, being the one that's protecting clients, that's advocating for their needs, that's getting them the right people, that's bringing the whole team together, that's getting the transaction closed, and not letting hurdles and things like that get in the way, but having the people around them that can solve those problems and get it through.
Yeah, 100%. It takes a team, and you got to be the quarterback.
Yep.
Unless you're on a unique team and your job is to be the tight end and be the best tight end in the business, right?
Yep.
So know your role, know what your vision is, and it all comes down to vision and mission and those types of things. And technology should never be looked at to replace.
Correct.
If when the mo and a lot of people look at it to replace the lead generation, the automations, all those other things. Those are all great. Those you have to look at it this way. I think this is the way I look at it, and this is the way I would suggest people look at it. I don't want to sit here and tell you what you should be doing. Um, but when you change the outlook of things, like I'm not looking for technology to replace me.
Yep.
I'm looking for technology to enhance me.
Correct.
Right. And so don't allow technology to replace you. Leverage technology to enhance you. Take your offline relationships and bring them online, business owners. That way you can meet new people online and bring them offline and have a relationship. Because at
Yep.
the end of the day, what we're all seeking is more relationships.
Mhm.
Because the more relationships you have of high value, the more you're going to make.
Yep. 100%. All right. Well, we're just about out of time, Johnny Mo. So, do you have a parting thought for this week?
build authentic relationships according to you and your comfort level. I hate to use the word comfort level, but your persona.
Mhm.
Okay. If you don't like something, don't feel as though you're forced to do it. That's not coming out of
Right.
your comfort zone. Coming out of your comfort zone was showing up to begin with.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So show up, be you, find your source of communicating with people, and take offline relationships online and online relationships offline, and you'll never have anything to worry about.
Yep. 100%. My parting thought would be from this event yesterday, we actually have a couple of people that actually want to come up and shadow us, see
Mhm.
what we do. And what I would just tell people is we are open book. We'll tell you whatever you want to know. We'll give you the scripts, the systems, the workflows. We'll tell you everything we do because we're not afraid to be open book and transparent and share that. If you have questions about the stuff maybe we talked about or anything in general, you can always reach out. We're always happy to have those conversations. We're working on continuing to build out courses and trainings and webinars and things like that that'll bring things to people because we feel like we can help. But in the meantime, don't hesitate to ask us questions. Me, you, Jeff, we're open book people. We want to see people succeed, and we're happy to answer those questions, have those conversations. So anytime you want to reach out, we're here.
I'm here too, real and digital.
Yeah, yeah. Digital, I can be anywhere, anytime. Real, I really got to give me some travel time.
Yeah. Focus on people, man.
Yep.
People over profits. You'll win every time.
Exactly. So I guess with that, Johnny Mo, that'll wrap up today. But if anybody's, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, or we'll circle back, or just reach out to us directly. So happy St. Patty's Day. Have a great weekend.
Peace.
See ya.